On the profile interview segment this week, I'll be speaking with the Managing Director of NSITF. It tells me that the federal government establishment is ready to go 100% digital to serve the people better. NSITF has been having more engagement with the informal sector. Can you give us an update on the impact of these engagements generally?
Informal sector for us is the most critical sector for us to look at, or that we're engaging with, because it demands a bit of creativity from us as to how we get them into the system and under the coverage of the employee compensation scheme. Given one, the dynamism of the various sub-sectors that comprise that sector. You have the Okada riders, you have the hairdressers, you have, different, businesses within that sector that you will need to think through how to really converge them under that sector. And that's why engagement is very key. You will see that we've been going around across geopolitical zones to engage, just basically to elicit more interest in what we do, and then speak and engage with the stakeholders, the informal sector, the participants, to better understand how to get them into the fold. And I must say that the signs are encouraging. I think the onus is on us to continue to engage, and not just only the informal sector, the formal sector, the public institutions, and everybody, to bring them under that banner. But what the results we're seeing is that specific and targeted engagement helps in letting the in-house team now fashion out our best to accommodate them. I had the privilege of meeting with the Director General, the new Director General of Bureau of Public Procurement a few days ago, and our conversations led to how best to, of course, not only capture in the informal sector, but also even engage with them even through our own activities in a manner that can, of course, give them the sense of inclusion. And we're also looking at that internally to see how we can look at even our own processes, our own procurement, how we can reserve some of those for the sector. But and this is really coming from everybody's realization that when you look at that sector, they form the bedrock of the productivity and economic productivity of Nigeria, and we must do everything to give them the sort of cover that they deserve.
Okay, talking about repositioning NSITF, there's the old NSITF and there's the new NSITF. Can you tell us what is the transitioning strategy towards achieving this?
There are a couple of things. Yes, there's the old. When we say old NSITF, we're talking about some of those things, some of those perceptions that were associated with NSITF that we're trying to move away from, and then some of the where we see NSITF, in the not too distant future and in a sustainable way. Of course, it's really a change of mindset, a change of culture. You've seen our engagements at the Savicom stakeholders engagement. We've seen our interaction with the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission. You've seen our engagement with public Nigerian police, all of those is once demonstrating to the public that, look, this NSITF is about engagement, it's about collaboration, it's about transparency in our engagement process, in our procurement process, in our claims and compensation payment process. So, and internally, we're also, having that culture change towards embracing these attributes. So that's key. And key to that is, so beyond the efficient workforce, efficient service delivery, is of course undertaking extensive capacity development internally to be able to render those services as we put ourselves out there. Then of course also looking at the tools by which our stakeholders, the public, can reach us. What we hope to see is moving on to a much more digitalize NSITF. We're in the process of that. We're trying to, first and foremost, determine some of our legacy contractual arrangements, around digitalization, to see what has worked and what is not working, and then, design a platform that we think is robust enough to then deliver on this quick and seamless sort of interaction with the members of the public.
Would you like to share with us what has been the engagement process towards employers' accountability towards their employees?
I think a lot of that will rest on us, who would like to take much more responsibility in that regard, and that's really what our advocacy initiative speaks to. We believe that with more knowledge, people will be able to understand what the benefits are, and anybody really that's understand the benefits that the ECS can give, I'm sure that we'll embrace it. So for employees' involvement and participation in the scheme, where they can then hold employers responsible, I think is much more dissemination of information as to what benefits that accrue. We need to understand that they need to understand that, look, the payment for ECS is 1% of their monthly salary. They need to understand that that money doesn't come or is not removed from their own salary. It's an employer's responsibility to pay. They also need to understand that on that declaration of what they earn monthly is to their disadvantage, so that when it's done, or when there are plans to do that within an organization, they can raise awareness or kick against it. They need to also understand the modalities for claiming and seeking compensation, the timelines, all of the documentation that is required. And I think that we are committed to putting that information out there in different languages, in different formats, through different platforms, both traditional media and social media, for everybody to understand what the benefits are. And the benefits, again, I'll repeat, are enormous. Of course, we have death benefit. God forbid, in case of death arising from workplace injury, or arising from or in relation to going or coming to work and all of those work-related activities, we pay death benefits to dependents. To anybody that is affected in that manner, and they range between 90% or thereabout of your monthly earnings. This is what we pay to your dependents. We're responsible for upkeep of dependent children up to 21. So we'll be responsible for the school fees. We'll be responsible for all of those fees that is associated. So, and these are very important protection for a disease, if you understand. There is of course disability payments, where if you're injured as a result of work, we will pay. If you're disabled, depending on the severity of this disability, there is a quantum that will pay, and that comes to you. There is medical refund, where employers and both employees can seek medical refund for expenses related to injury arising out of work. And of course, there is loss of productivity, where employer themselves will say, oh, I had this employer as a result of injury that occurs in the course of work. I've lost productivity because this employer is, has been unavailable, and we would pay for those. So when you look at all of those in totality, they help to boost economic activities. They help to boost economic productivity. They give confidence to the employee that, look, there is some level of support if anything goes wrong in the course of work. And I believe that any employer and employee that knows and hears about this can, for a negligible amount of 1% of a payroll, should be able to embrace it, because then the onus now behoves on us to then take on those responsibilities. And that's why we keep going out there to speak about this. We are engaging with all different shades of stakeholders, just basically for them to understand what it's all about.
What's the engagement process towards employers' accountability, especially when you look at employees right now? Most of them do not know what their right is. And if they even know they're right, they don't know how to go about it. What would be your message to this set or group of persons?
Of course, the advantage of digitalization is quite enormous. I think for us, we think that is the next phase of our evolution as a social insurance entity in Nigeria, because no matter how much, no matter how many numbers of employees we have, we may not be able to reach the vast majority of Nigerians in nooks and crannies without the efforts of digitalization. So digitalization will expand our reach and will also make the engagement with us much more easier, much more seamless. So, and I think that's the way to go. Without that, we are going to be constricted. People will get overly frustrated in engaging with us, and that's not the experience that we want to create for subscribers and stakeholders. So we will continue to do everything we can to take us to that stage. We're already doing a lot. Apart from the reviews that I told you about, the internal team are already we're test running now. You know, the electronic certificates processing within the system. I know that it started in Lagos. Abuja is also piloting it, and then of course by end of the year, by beginning of January, we then deploy it nationwide, where you can sit, you know, from the premise of your office or home and apply for ECS certificate, and then that will be delivered to you, you know, in your laptop, palm top, or whatever medium that you've used. But we want to make sure that people have different modes of reaching, and that's why some of the in the not too distance part, we also expand our feedback process, where people can also come back to us through SMS, through Twitter, through all sorts of social media, to also give us their thoughts and their feedback. All of this is part of the digitalization effort we have, just opening up ourselves for engagement much more, and we'll continue to do that. So as we go along, there will be incremental success or incremental efforts to expand and deepen our digitalization footprint as it relates to how we engage with Nigerians.
What are the implications of an employer of labor not reporting any injury, accident in the workplace? If a death happened in the course of work, are there any implications? What does the law say as regards employers doing the right thing to ensure accountability?
It's something. It's simple. The law, specifies timelines within which all of these accidents, when they occur, be it death, be it injury, that they should be reported, so that members of our team can then undertake their own verification process and begin the process of payment of claims and compensation. I think experience has shown, when you see or hear cases of lateness in payment of claims, that you see it's really due to lack of understanding of what that timeline is. You've seen cases where people are coming to report a year or 2 years later after the accident or incident, and it then makes it difficult for us to be able to ascertain the cause of the injury vis-a-vis the working environment, because things have changed, it's now difficult to pinpoint why and how it happened. And that's why those timelines were put in place, and it's important to adhere to them. But of course, the flip side is that we also must educate and enlighten people as to what those timelines are, for reporting. And I think that's what some of our advocacy materials will be speaking to, so that employees and employers that are registered with us, they know that when accidents occur, they know what process and procedure they must take and they will take for prompt claims payment.
And that's all we can take on today's edition of the program. Join us next week for a fresh edition of the show. I am Sharon Ijason. Thanks for watching, and remember that labor creates wealth.